Hello everyone, I'm Sculliam Jones, and today we're going to be talking about the 6 different classes that you can play as in Spellbreak. These classes consist of, in no particular order, Toxicologist, Pyromancer, Conduit, Frostborn, Tempest, and Stone Shaper. They focused on poison, fire, electricity, ice, wind, and earth magic respectively, and they each have their own unique abilities and playstyles, and they provide very specific advantages. Each class, when selected as your main gauntlet, provides their own abilities that can be harnessed as the game progresses. As you make it into the first 3 safe zone closings, you receive these unique buffs to your player. Toxicologists can do very high damage at close ranges with a direct hit and will continue to do damage over time with a poisonous effect. The basic ability creates a toxic sludge on the floor that slows enemies and allies alike, and even to yourself, and does a small amount of damage over time. I think it's about 6. Your next buff will allow you to turn invisible and dash upon entering your toxic cloud, and then you can do 75% more damage with your toxic spray while invisible, and then your final ability adds 2 more bubbles to your toxic cloud, allowing you to shoot 3 of them at a time, and this can be pretty powerful for taking over areas of a battlefield. Pyromancers will typically fight at close to medium range, and their secondary ability can be used as a method of crowd control during combat. The first buff you'll receive allows your enemies to burn for 2 seconds after a hit with your fireball and will increase the explosion radius by 200%. You will next become immune to your fire walls and be able to fly for 2 seconds after you go through them. After that, your firewall will receive a 100% damage buff for 2 seconds after placing it, and your last buff will allow your fireballs to explode into 6 smaller fragments that can cause enemies to receive a burning effect. As an electricity mage, medium range will be your friend, but I would recommend staying on the close combat end of that scale because your lightning bolt can only reach so far. I'd also recommend using a low cooldown mobility based rune such as Dash or Shadow Step. Your lightning bolt damage will increase by 1 after each bolt, stacking up to 5 times until you stop casting. The first buff you will receive will give you 1 rune charge every time you cast your lightning strike ability. The next buff is also a result of casting a lightning bolt strike, but this time reduces mana cost by 100% for 4 seconds. The last buff changes the lightning bolt strike to strike 4 times in a row, essentially making a bombardment of lightning. Frost mages can do very high damage at longer ranges and focus on very high mobility with the creation of an ice path. This ice path is created underneath the path of your frost arrow. Other buffs that the ice mage receive as they progress are a hover effect while aiming, outlining enemies while aiming, damage immunity while in your blizzard, and a damage increase to the frost arrow if you overcharge it. As a Tempest or Wind Mage, your wind attacks will passively give you a slight boost into the air and vastly increase your mobility. However, I have found that playing solo as a Wind Mage is not very advantageous and should mainly be played as a high mobility support class in squad mode. The first buff you receive allows you to get a vertical boost from your tornado if you're near to it. Your next buff increases your damage output and decreases the amount of damage you take both while airborne. The last buff will decrease cooldown for the sorcery abilities. That includes things like the tornadoes or poison clouds. The last class, but most certainly not least, is the Stone Shaper class. This is a high damage per shot class that plays a very in-your-face style. Your passive buff increases your max armor points by 20, and when you have less than 20 armor points, you will get 5 armor points for every time that you use your ground smash ability. The first buff you get with this class has your character crash to the ground when using Shockwave or the ground smash ability. The next buff allows for your boulder to grow after you throw it for as long as it travels in the air. The final buff allows you to gain an additional charge for your boulder, making it possible for you to throw 2 boulders right in a row. I'm going to be making more videos in the future about each individual class and how they react with other classes as your secondary, but for now that's all I have for this video. If you enjoy this kind of content and want to see more, let me know by leaving a like. If you don't want to miss a future video, consider subscribing and turning on the notifications. That's all I've got for today. Thanks again for watching.